This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth, and the one thing I keep hearing about this holiday season is Bitcoin. It seems to be the one thing everyone is talking about right now. In fact, we've got Sally Soccer Mom getting into the cryptocurrency space right now, and this has brought on the attention of, people. The likes of Wall Street is now getting interested in this, and we're now seeing the introduction of Bitcoin futures, and this space is getting so involved. It's been a roller coaster of a ride for anybody involved. So joining me on the line right now to help us make sense of all of this is Frank Holmes of HIVE Blockchain, HIVEblockchain.com. Frank, thanks so much for taking some time to speak with us here today and help us make sense of all this that's going on. I want to get your views on what's going on in the cryptocurrency world right now, and also what's happening with gold and silver. But before we get into that, maybe we can talk a little bit about the current tightening policy that we're seeing come from the Fed. It seems that as rates are rising and the balance sheets are shrinking, we're seeing a stock market top, and this is leading to a subsequent recession. So, in your opinion, are the American people even ready right now for the scenario of a dollar crash? I mean, with the current divide of the left and right now in the United States, do you think they're even prepared for a scenario like that?
Wow, you got so many great questions. It'll take too long to answer. But let me try to be succinct but comprehensive enough for your listeners. We have a flat yield curve, and I don't think the rates go much higher. If they do go to an inverted yield curve, then we'll get this recession. B, I think the dollar is actually going to get a little stronger because the socialists are really upset that we're going to become competitive with dropping our corporate tax rate and redefining what we're doing for taxes. So I think that will make a dollar stronger. But I think the other part we're really wrestling with in America is inflation. And inflation is starting to show up. And with oil over $60 a barrel, it will start to show up next year, this inflation. And so even with rising rates, we still have negative real interest rates. It's very important. That is, whatever the government is going to pay you to buy a 5-year, 2-year, 10-year government bond, you take away the CPI number, which comes out every month, and the 2-year and 5-year have negative rates. So that's always bullish for gold, and it's bullish for overall economic activity. I think what's masterful is that the rates have been rising this year, but the dollar has fallen, and that's lifted gold up over 10%. It's also helped ignite global trade and growth because China tracks the trend of the U.S. dollar. So the renminbi's gone down along with the dollar, and both those economies are doing very, very well. So I remain really constructively bullish. Now, if we get this inverted yield curve, this will definitely slow down things. But I think that what's important to recognize is that the media is so socialistic in its tendencies to cover things, and Trump is such a lightning rod to say negative things that they go after him. But he is taking on the Beltway Party, and he is doing everything to try to streamline regulations or drop them in taxation, and it's showing up in the stock market. So the data that you get from the quant funds, who are 60% of all the daily trading, they have a better feel because they can read, like Google on steroids, all the government filings, and they're the ones that are coming in buying stocks, are saying that there's something positive happening in overall economic activity. So I remain bullish on that end of it. Now, cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, well, cryptocurrencies, I mean, in terms of gold as well, what are your thoughts about the awareness that is happening and people becoming aware of cryptocurrencies and what it can do for them? And is this going to potentially modernize gold moving forward?
Well, let's go to the hurricane that took place in San Juan earlier this year. Tragic for all the people. But Bitcoin couldn't work because there's no electricity. You have to have electricity. So what does work is U.S. dollars and silver and gold if you need to buy something from someone. So I don't think they're going to leave us any time soon. And I think the Chinese who want to have a currency that doesn't have to go through New York and they can trade with the Saudis, well, the Saudis have basically said you have to put gold up as collateral, that their currency renminbi that they would do a trade with would have to be convertible into gold. So I don't think that they're going to take a convertible into Bitcoin because of the reliance that you have to have electricity. But I think that what's happened with Bitcoin is that we saw earlier this year that the Japanese, the third largest GDP in the world, started accepting it as a currency, and then South Korea. And when that took place 10 months ago, then all of a sudden you started seeing a major lift and a change in the behavior and the trading of those particular currencies. And Ethereum, it was very popular. It's a smart contract, and it is the second biggest currency. So I think there's something else is happening there.
Yeah, there's so much happening in this space. It's almost hard to keep track of it all. And now with the introduction of these futures, I'm having a hard time making sense of that. It seems like a derivatives market, which is strange for something that's, only has 21 million Bitcoin. So do you think this is a good advancement for Bitcoin, considering you can now short it?
Well, I think it legitimizes it. That's what I think. The fact that they went ahead to do it with all the things, the issues you brought up, I think it's legitimizing it. And I think the other real big fact that just really shocks me is that Coinbase, which you can open an account in 5 minutes, takes you 2 weeks or 2 days to open an account at Schwab. What a difference. And so the millennials have been the first adopters were opening accounts at Coinbase. But now we have many mainstream people because Fidelity allows you to open an account at Coinbase and will show up in your overall brokerage account. And they also have USAA. They invested in Coinbase along with the New York Stock Exchange 2 years ago when it had a valuation of $75 million. Now it's $1.7 billion. They allow you to open an account at Coinbase and it will show up at your USA account. So I think there's something really significant that's happening. And many of the new accounts opening at Coinbase are tax-paying citizens, and I think the IRS have gone after trying to look for those citizens of not paying their taxes, etc. And I think it's all healthy because every negative news from Jimmy Dimon knocking down the currency has only gone to higher highs. There's something that's very constructive and positive regarding blockchain, and I think people are discovering the power of blockchain because of Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Well, for those who may feel they're not up to the technical aspects here, how can people who don't understand the technology behind this, what's the best avenue for them to get into this space?
I think that YouTube has some great videos, and you can really understand. There's some 2-minute videos out there. There's a gazillion people with opinions, but there are some animated ones that are very instructive to explain the difference between blockchain, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. And just like HIVE has a great video as the chairman of HIVE, and HIVE has been a remarkable success because when we went out to try to launch an ETF product, the regulators were so consumed with anti-money laundering laws, AML, that they just wouldn't allow an ETF to go through. So when the opportunity came along with HIVE and their partners with Genesis Mining, the largest cryptocurrency pooling where you can turn around and use their cloud and their technology to mine your own coins, who also have been growing like Coinbase. So when you look at those factors, I said, wow, you mean to say that HIVE is going to be able to mine virgin coins? The first coin is always called the Genesis or the Virgin new coins. They have no AML restrictions. They have no many difficulties because they're brand new coins and they're worth a premium. We've had people want to take agreements to be able to get those and pay as a premium. So this is a stock that goes out public, and it really caught the imagination, not of the crypto world, but many more of investors who want to say, how do I play the space and enjoy the spectacular run from 30 million to 80 million to $1 billion.
Yeah, that's amazing. I would agree. That sounds like a good avenue right there. In fact, I told my subscribers to get involved with HIVE at around 72 cents. It's since gone up quite a bit. We've seen a bit of a correction recently, but the healthy markets that's good for a healthy market. So, in terms of HIVE, what are we looking at for 2018? What sort of things can you project for HIVE in 2018?
Well, our goal originally in the first transaction was what would it take at the current hash rate and at the current Ethereum price, which is around 300, to take our revenue to $1 million a month. If we get that done, then we'd have about 65% gross, 70% gross margins, and we figured we'd make $300,000 of $250,000 on every million a month of free cash flow. And then we said, how do we scale it now? And in particular, because we're in Iceland. And Iceland is very important because it's cool weather and you need cheap electricity and you need a safe jurisdiction. And now we've expanded to Sweden and we'll expand to other Nordic places. But our vision was now how do we take it from $1 million to a month to $1 million a week? So based on the performance, which is all projections, by April, we hope to be up to $50 million in revenue, having gross margins of, saying, $35 million, and having free cash flow close to $25 million. That's the sort of performance plan. And right now, we're doing our numbers. We're hitting them. And I'm happy for November. I'm happy for December. And guess what? Ethereum has exploded from 300 to over 500. So I think that's very bullish for us.
Yeah, I'm super bullish on it too. And I'm also curious on what your thoughts are about the concept of a gold-backed cryptocurrency moving forward. I mean, things are getting so crazy in the United States, and a lot of people are tossing around this notion, this idea. We're seeing countries like Venezuela have their own centralized banking system and stuff like that. But what do you think of the concept of a gold-backed cryptocurrency?
Well, never compare Venezuela to America. I mean, they don't even come close. And that's just a corrupt, drug lord infested bunch of generals, Venezuela, that's desperate to try to raise money, and they've sold all their assets to China and Russia. So, no, but that's just a desperate, for me, it just hurts our industry, the blockchain industry and the cryptocurrency world. But I do think the idea and the concept of having something trade 24/7, where you'd be able to buy a gram of gold, and that's what was on the tables, to do a partnership with the Royal Mint in England, along with the CME, that they would have a cryptocurrency backed by gold and safe. That would be very, very profound for gold. Why? Because the GLD was a game changer for bullion. Made it easier for people in the stock brokerage world, investment world, to be able to buy bullion through an ETF. Now, all of a sudden, you'd be able to have people trade a smaller sliver of gold, but it would be 24/7. I think that would be very significant. That would pick up the demand for gold, probably tack on $1,000 to the price of gold.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it'd be about time. You know, it'd be nice to see that rise. You know, I'm hoping to see that sometime soon. Yeah, any final thoughts on just the current state of Bitcoin? I mean, as I said in the beginning of this interview, you know, you got Sally's soccer mom. I see, you know, people just who are not really into this asking me about it all the time. Family members wanting to get in. What do you think about the current momentum that we're seeing in the cryptocurrency space?
I think it's huge. I think that what's been most disruptive is the junior mining space, junior anything space, because there's been $3 billion going into these new ICOs. People want to be able to open an account quickly. They want to be able to go speculate, and the government cannot stop the speculation, because it's just like, you know, good intentions, but take a look what happened when they brought in prohibition. All it did was, the side effect was create a mafia and an Al Capone, and they finally had to repeal and pull back on their anti-alcohol laws. So I think that this idea of having some type of rules for the ICO market is very important. I prefer right now to stick not with new coins. I love the Ethereum Classic. We are miners of Ethereum Classic, and I think it trades higher. I think it gets more acceptable. I think Ethereum also has had a bigger move. Light has also had a bigger move than Bitcoin, but Bitcoin captures the imagination of the media, which isn't great. But I think you ought to take a look under the hood of these other type of well-known currencies, because I think they trade higher. And if you go to like Einstein Exchange in Canada, they've also said that they're having so many people that are not just millennials that are now lining up to be able to invest and trade these currencies. So I think we're early days in the space. I spoke at a conference last week in Toronto, the GMP blockchain event, and I would say that 70% of the room did not have a Coinbase account, had never traded cryptocurrencies, but they were very curious. They're very enthusiastic. They want to try to understand how and what's going to happen with it. But I think there's going to be much more when you take a look at that. The big financial institutions have filed over 2,700 patents to use blockchain. Vanguard makes an announcement today that they're using blockchain for transactions. Fidelity, which has been the leader with over 1,000 scientists basically working on blockchain, and then they have all their employees be able to have access and buy at their cafeteria with a wallet, their food with a Bitcoin. There's many adopters. So you can buy Tesla, you can buy sub sandwiches, you can buy Starbucks. There's many different types of products, and I mean service providers that you can use with your Bitcoins, your Ethereum, or immediately convert it and trade it. So I'm very bullish on the sector.
Yeah, me too. I mean, blockchain is clearly the future. It's such a huge advancement. It's comparable to the internet itself. So it's going to be really interesting to see where this space moves forward in the near future. So once again, yeah.
Here's a good point for your listeners, and that is when we look at the internet, it was very slow and it was dark stuff, and they said it was porn and all this stuff. A lot of people were not early adopters until email came along, and all of a sudden AOL and everything started to take off because people saw the benefits of having something like email. I think that Bitcoin is going to do that for blockchain. Blockchain technology is going to drive down the costs, where you'll be able to have stock trading 24/7, settle every 10 minutes, and basically cut out the back office by 80%. So I think there's some many profound things to come from this blockchain technology, and we've all got to thank Bitcoin waking them up.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you were try to explain to somebody back in those early days the technology behind email, it would seem really super overwhelming, and they would be like, oh God, this is too much for me. I can't get into that. But then when they do get into that, they realize, well, all I got to do is put in somebody's address, send them a message. It's the same thing with Bitcoin, folks. You put in an address, you send them a little bit of money, no bank involved, no third party involved, no government involved. It's changing the face of the internet and changing the world. So Frank, once again, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to have all the links in the description below. Do you have any a Twitter handle or any other links you want to shout out right now?
I think it's you can go to usfunds.com and sign up for Investor Alert. We talk about these things, and I have 40,000 readers in 180 countries. And go to HIVEblockchain.com and see their videos. They're very informative. They're very useful for you to get a flavor for what's taking place at HIVE.
Fantastic. All the links will be located in the description below. Once again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.